My name is Ron Semprini and I live in Hyannis. I think for me, it goes back, I can remember when I was 10 years old, it was 1962, and President Kennedy had his summer White House here. My father was a news director for radio station WOCB. And it was quite memorable for me to be able to have the opportunity to go with him over to the Kennedy compound when they would arrive. We lived right around the corner here from Hyannis Yacht Club and also the Yachtsman Motor Lodge. And the Hyannis Yacht Club in those days was where the media was set up, NBC, CBS News. And the Hyannis Motor Lodge, Yachtsman Motor Lodge, is where the Secret Service used to stay. So I had many opportunities to go with my father as a young kid and go over there and experience some of that. And of course, you know, being a 10-year-old kid and looking up at all the Secret Service and some of the celebrities was quite a thrill. I think the town has many strengths. We are the largest town on the Cape, and I consider the town of Barnstable also the hub of the Cape. We have a great hospital, transportation center, trains, the boats that go to the islands, the airport. You know, it's, I think when people think of Cape Cod, Hyannis sticks out as one of the destinations because of, you know, what we are, what we represent in reference to all those strengths. So. I think we have a very strong government. You know, I think our town council and town manager is a great form of government, considering we have 7 villages. We have a town, when I graduated from high school, it was only 19,000 people, and I believe now we're up to almost about 48,000 or so, you know, so there's quite a few challenges here, and I think the town council and town manager and all the departments are doing a great job with that. The high school was a fun place, and of course it wasn't as large as it is now, but it was a sense of community back then. Everybody knew everybody. We all came from different villages in the town, but we all congregated at Barnstable High School. Teachers were great, athletic programs were great, and it was just a fun place to grow up. And if you will, even though they were the turbulent 60s, it was still kind of an innocent time to grow up. And we didn't have half the challenges, I think, as the teachers and the students and the young kids are facing today. I played football. And I was also in a couple of plays. I did participate in the drama programs. I was very much involved in athletics as the time went on, but football was my main sport.
Who was the drama director when you were there?
Jim Roberti. How could we ever forget? Great guy. Yeah, I see him quite a bit today, and he's still going strong. That's a tough one, Len. I think one of my favorite spots is up in Hyannisport Golf Course. We call it Sunset Hill. And it's a very picturesque place, and it brings back a lot of memories. And it's just a place that's very serene, especially as the sun sets over Craigville Beach. You can't find too many places in the town that are more pristine than Hyannisport Golf Course and that hill itself. First job was 1966. I was 14 years old. I worked at a little restaurant right around the corner here called Luigi's. And there were 2 owners, Dick and Ted Halloran. Ted was the chef and Dick was the owner. And I had quite an experience there over a few years of working as a 14-year-old kid. But it was a great little spot. It had been there for many years, and it was a very, very popular restaurant, especially with the people from Hyannisport. Oh yeah, it was the place to go. It was one of the last vestiges of the old, typical Italian-American restaurants where you could walk in and get fried chicken and spaghetti. And the only other place now that comes close to that on the Cape is the Sagamore Inn. It's the same type of setting. And it's like walking back into time. If you were to walk into the Sagamore Inn now, it'd be like walking back into 1945. But you know, I was in business here for 30 years and still in business, so I mean, I love the summer season. I love it when people come down, and I'm a people person, so I love to meet people from all over the world and in different parts of the country who have never been to the Cape, and really just kind of try to introduce them to the Cape and show them the beauty of it. But I think overall, my favorite season would have to be fall, September and October. You know, they call it the shoulder season, but it's a wonderful time to be on the Cape, and it's more of a serene downtime, if you will. They're really curious, not only about the town of Barnstable, but the Cape itself. I mean, for example, I was in Boston yesterday and picked up two people from Toronto. They're here for 3 days. I'm giving them a tour tomorrow. They've never been to the Cape in their lives. So their questions were more about the geography of the Cape, you know, how many people live here, certain restaurants to go to, obviously the Kennedy Museum and things relative to the Kennedy family and so forth. But there are a lot of questions that people ask because they are curious about it. And it's a unique little piece of real estate when you think about it in comparison to the rest of the country. The count, as I recall, from the Kennedy Museum here on Main Street alone has increased quite substantially over the last couple of years, and they're doing a terrific job down there. I think with also the 50th anniversary of President Kennedy's assassination last year, that in itself brought a lot of people here. And a lot of people took time to reflect on where they were 50 years ago. So yeah, they do a terrific job. I think personally I'd like to see more light industry down here. We've had an influx of young people who have left the Cape in the last, say, 10 to 15 years because of the job situation. People have gone on to college, have gotten an education, have tried to come back, but most of the jobs down here in many respects is either municipal jobs or it's service related. And in a lot of fields that people have been educated for, it's not conducive to them. So I think I would like to see, you know, companies at least look at the Cape for an option to come to create good, solid jobs. Not only jobs that people can have to make a living, but to be able to afford to buy a home. Because as you know, real estate on Cape Cod, it's gone through the roof in the last 20 years, and it's made it unaffordable for a lot of young people. So that's some of the reason, too, why people have left the Cape. But I do think, in reference to the service industry, there's a lot of fine hotels and motels on the Cape, but I would like to see a five-star hotel someplace on the Cape. We have some great places down in Chatham with the Wequassett Inn and Chatham Bars Inn, and I think the town of Barnstable, you know, would be a nice location for a good five-star restaurant, considering that we are the hub of the Cape and we are the mode of transportation for, again, the boats, planes, and trains. Well, my daughter, when she graduated from college, she spent 10 years up in Boston working, and then she moved back to the Cape here in 2008. And I think if she had her choice, she would love to stay on the Cape. She's a Cape Codder. She was born and brought up here. She loves the Cape. She has a sense of community also. And I think, given the right circumstances, she would move back. She's not far off the Cape right now. She's living in the Kingston area because that's where her husband lived and had a home before they were married. And his job requires they're up in that territory. But even her husband, who was brought up around the Needham area and went to school up in Boston, loves that area, but he also loves the Cape. And I think if an opportunity presented itself to the both of them, they would come down here in a heartbeat. Well, that's a difficult question for me to answer sometimes because it's a very emotional question for me. My father was a special guy. He came to the Cape here in 1940 for a summer job and ended up, as you know, as news director for WOCB radio when there's only one radio station. It was the voice of Cape Cod for over 50 years. He lived with me for 22 years after my mother passed away. And he and I went from father and son to becoming very close friends. And to hear his stories over the years of all his experiences, from interviewing Khrushchev's son-in-law to covering the Andrea Doria shipwreck, to covering the Pendleton, which we know is now being made into a movie after a great book that Casey Sherman wrote called The Finest Hours. For me, it was thrilling, you know. it's tough to walk in his footsteps. I mean, obviously, he was a great guy, and he was a great mentor to me, and if I could be 1/10 of what my father was, I would consider myself a success. Ron Semprini, the Village of Hyannis.